With Euro 4 standards kicking into full effect, we are starting to see plenty of bikes fall by the wayside. But if you think that manufacturers will take this laying down, then you have another thing coming. Because where EPA regulations choke bikes to death, it forces there to be a will, and when there is a will, there is a way. The answer to our problems could very well be forced induction. Motorcycles have already did the whole displacement thing and reasonably cannot get much bigger. Because of this, displacement is being replaced by things such as forced induction, like supercharged systems. Systems we've already seen from Kawasaki on the Ninja H2 and H2SX models, which turn a 998cc inline-4 into a fire-breathing 200 horsepower monster for the street-legal versions. I guess we should, in very simple terms, explain how a supercharger works, because some of you may not know. A supercharger and turbos have the same goal, to force more air into the engine, because more air plus more fuel equals bigger explosion, and bigger explosions equal more horsepower. Now the way superchargers and turbochargers achieve this is very different. Now again, this is very simplistic, so forgive me about skipping out on the details, but a turbocharger forces air into the engine using exhaust air. That's why there's turbo lag, because the turbo must spool up first before it can force enough air into the intake and create boost. Now a supercharger works in a very different way, as a supercharger is driven by belts or gears on the engine. These belts spin with the engine. Because of that, you get very linear and consistent boost, which is perfect for motorcycles. Because although manufacturers in the past put turbochargers on motorcycles, such as the GPZ750 Turbo or the CX500 Turbo, both of which were manufactured all the way back in the early 1980s, the problem with turbos is that lag can be a huge problem on the street. Think about it. Having no power at low RPMs, then suddenly at the mid or high RPMs getting a huge rush of power could be problematic for going around corners, for instance. Or even with keeping the front wheel down. I've seen a couple videos of people putting turbos on their sport bikes and it literally turns them into pogo sticks. I'm sure manufacturers could do a better job than a home mechanic, but the traction control system would be getting one hell of a workout. Even though superchargers still give you a huge power boost, it's consistent and linear, so nothing will surprise you while you're cornering, and even though it will lift the front wheel no problem, it does make it a little easier on the traction control system than a turbocharger would. So what are the clear advantages of supercharging, and why haven't other manufacturers adopted that technology yet? Well, I think Kawasaki was ahead of the curve on this one. They knew that they just couldn't continue making bigger engines, that they had to make something super unique and something that no amount of reasonable displacement could top, and that's why we saw the birth of the Ninja H2 and Ninja H2SX. Now this begs the question, will forced induction systems like superchargers become more common among manufacturers? Well, I say yes. Because of Euro 4 regulations, it is forcing manufacturers to have to develop more complex systems, such as superchargers. It's how car manufacturers get around the whole EPA regulations themselves, with turbochargers and superchargers. Now, am I saying that new leader bikes like the GSX-R1000 and R1 are going to have forced induction? Sadly, I would say no, simply because AMA rules most likely have something preventing forced induction. However, we will start seeing other models come out with forced induction, such as sport touring models, like who knows, maybe a new VFR or Hayabusa, I believe are great candidates for forced induction. I know it's a long shot and most likely will never happen, especially with the VFR, but I think it's definitely possible, especially with the Busa. And with Kawasaki releasing their H2SX, I think in order for other manufacturers to compete, they have to turn to forced induction. There's simply no other way. Think about how amazing a VFR 1000 supercharged would be, or a Hayabusa supercharged. I don't know about you guys, but a 180 horsepower supercharged VFR would definitely have my money. Well, what do you guys think? Would you be interested in a forced induction motorcycle? Of course you would have to pay a premium like the H2, but the pure acceleration seems like a very attractive reason to pick one up over a naturally aspirated motorcycle. Or do you think that electric motors will end up filling the void left from Euro 4 regulations? Or maybe we will see a mixture of the two living in harmony. Unfortunately, there's no way of knowing just yet, but let's discuss in the comment section below. I'm interested in hearing what you guys have to say about the matter. Thank you all so much for watching.